Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the News Today edition of 21st of August, wherein we try and make all important news for the day in the most simplest format for you guys to understand. So let's look at important news for today. Bills for ministerial removal on criminal charges has been referred to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Bill 2025 has been passed in Lok Sabha. A parliamentary committee has bagged reservation in private educational institutions. India has successfully test-fired Agni 5 intermediate-range ballistic missiles. India and Eurasian Economic Union has signed terms of reference for trade deal. And Parliamentary Standing Committee has released a report on review of safety in the civil aviation sector. We are also going to discuss place in news, that is Vietnam, along with quick updates for the day. So the very first news, so bill which has been introduced, which talks about wherein some ministers could be removed on the basis of criminal charges which are put on them. So that bill has been referred or sent to the Joint Parliamentary Committee for their review, right? So basically, let's discuss. As ministers comes under the executive organ of the government, so again that becomes important for us, that is GS paper number 2 under executive organ of the government, and also some parts of representation of People's Act. So with the growing idea of criminalization of politics happening, this is something which is going to be a good step to ensure that again public trust among the representatives which they have chosen is going to sustain. So what exactly this bill talks about? So again, this bill is going to make some changes in the constitution. So again, it is having coming under the constitutional 130th amendment bill. It is also going to make changes with respect to Government of Union Territories and Jammu and Kashmir Reorganizations Amendment Bill. Why? Because it is going to make sure that again, if ministers of state, if ministers of UT, if ministers of, let's say, if Prime Minister, Chief Ministers are going to be removed, so again, this requires basic amendments, right? So this is basically going to take into consideration wherein some ministers face some serious criminal charges, right? On those grounds, that can that be a ground for their removal, right? That has been the idea which has been put forward and discussed in this particular bill, right? So it is applicable to the Prime Minister, Chief Minister, Union Ministers, and Ministers of States as well as Union Territories, right? So again, basically the executive organ of both Union as well as the state government. Let's discuss what exactly the bill has been talking about, right? So maybe many times we have elected our representatives, right? And among those representatives, there are some of them who have a majority forms the government, right? So basically, we have trusted someone. And if that person is arrested on the grounds of some criminal charges, is it not a ground that again it is breaking trust of that particular people over that elected representatives? And that has been the basis of this particular bill. So it is making sure that again the people's trust, the idea of constitutional morality, right, and a good governance is going to be maintained by the provisions of this particular bill. So it is going to change few things in the constitution. So again, few amendments around Article 75, which talks about Council of Ministers, Article 164 talks about State Council of Ministers, and Article 239 AA, which talks about National Capital Territory of Delhi. But it is very important to understand ki on which criminal charges there could be removal of such executive members, right? So the bill says ki if a minister or of any union or state government has been arrested on a criminal charge without any bail, they are arrested for a period of 30 days, right? Then it is going to be removed. And one more condition, very important. One is, of course, 30 consecutive days without a bail. And then on which ground they are arrested? If that ground is something which is a punishable offense with an imprisonment of 5 years or more, then only this particular provision will be applicable. Clear on this? 30 days consecutive in jail without any bail. And again, on what charges? Any offense which is making that punishable offense of 5 years or more. That is the first basic understanding. Then, what is the timeline? So technically, it has been told that if you are arrested for 30 days without any bail, right, on basis of this particular offense, you are automatically bound to resign, right? Then they have told if that executive body or the person is not resigning, then again the powers has been given to few other bodies. For example, the president can remove prime minister and union ministers. The governors can remove chief ministers and state council of ministers, and the lieutenant governors can remove ministers in union territories. So that has been the idea. First, they are bound to resign. If they are not resigning, right, then again powers has been given to this body to remove them. Even if this is not functioning, if they are not removing it, then on 31st day, automatically the person is office is getting automatically ended. So that has been the idea. Simple. Then one more thing has been done, because many times the difference between arrest and a person getting convicted, right? So it has been also been told that if person is coming out of custody, there is an option that they can return and resume their post as prime minister, chief ministers or ministers, right, after they are removed from the custody. So that has been the idea, right? But again, if they are in continuous custody for 30 days, they are automatically going to resign. If not resign, they can be removed by these bodies. If not removed by these bodies, on 31st day, they are automatically removed from the office what they are holding. Okay? As simple as that. Then why it is important, right? So do we have any existing provision which talks about the idea of criminalization in politics? Yes, the Representation of People Act of 1951 under section 8 talks about that legislators are getting disqualified from contesting election, or they continue to hold their office upon conviction, again, not arrest. Here again very important कि the existing law is only applicable if a person is getting convicted. There's a difference between arrest and conviction, right? So after arrest, the charge sheet is getting filed, the court maybe sees a particular case, and then the person is getting convicted or acquitted, right? So this existing provision is only applicable once a person is getting convicted, not arrested. So that was a vacuum area, right? That has been filled, which this particular bill has been talking about, right? So again, that talks about that again, if any legislator is getting disqualified or continuing office upon conviction, being sentenced to imprisonment for at least 2 years. That is the existing provision. The Law Commission report, that is 170th Law Commission report, has also told that there are different grounds of disqualification of these legislators. There has been a talking, the report has suggested that if a person is framed of a charge that is punishable for up to 5 years of imprisonment, that should also be a ground for disqualification. So again, this is not there. This has been a recommendation by the Law Commission report. These kind of data or provisions, facts, you can write down in your answers, right? Very important, right? What exactly is the significance? Of course, it is going to make sure or strengthen the accountability and integrity in the politics. Then it is going to fill the gap between arrest and conviction. What was the case? Because once a person is getting arrested, there was no repercussions on them. So that is this bill is making sure that again people or these ministers could be held accountable for their acts of criminal nature, right? And then it is preventing misuse of public office while facing serious charges. Many times, some people, because of course these posts are very influential, very powerful. So once a person is getting arrested, there is a high chances that again that person can misuse his office. So that has been the idea, which has been a rational viewpoint with respect to removing that person from that particular post if they are convicted of any or arrested for any criminal charges on the basic facts. Very simple, right? So again, that is giving you another topic, they can ask you questions on the idea of criminalization of politics, right? That is where you can use such provisions or content, even if the bill is not getting passed, right? But again, that idea which has been floated by the government is very wise and can be used as a probable solution in your answers. Okay? Now, the next topic. So there has been a bill which has been passed by Lok Sabha that is talking about promotion and regulation of online gaming. We know about online games, right? So again, very important for your GS paper number 2, governance, economy in general, right? So what exactly was this particular bill? So again, this bill was a finance bill. Right. So again, this makes again a topic important for your polity that again you're going to read about what are different types of finance bills, how a finance bill is different from a money bill, right? So these provisions are again these kind of news takes some static part of syllabus and that topic becomes important for your examination, right? So again, finance bill under article 117 needs to be prior approved by the president in order to introduce them, right? So that has been the idea that again this bill has been introduced by approval of president of India, right? Under article 1171 and subclause 3, we are going to discuss them towards the end. And the idea is, of course, to regulate online gaming while ensuring the digital environment, safe digital environment for all citizens of the country. In general, the objective is to have a legal framework for online gaming. Currently, we have laws, but again, they are not very much, the whole gaming sector is not much regulated, right? And that has been the idea of, or the genesis why this particular bill has been introduced and again, of course, now passed, right? And it is, of course, encouraging the innovation and economic growth which this industry, of course, has. And lastly, it is going to ensure that again, online gaming is going to be a responsible gaming. And why? I'll tell you. So, in terms of categorization of online games, there has been 3 basic categories. One is we call as esports. What are esports? Basically, you know about, I'll tell you with an example. All of you must have played Counter-Strike, FIFA games, right? So all of these are categories of esports where again you use your skill, your agility, your mental alertness. All of these skills are getting used while playing that particular game. So that games are basically categorized as esports. Number 2, online social games. So again, of course, here also in this also there is no monetary gain which a person is getting by playing such games. For example, Candy Crush, right? You have all of must have played as the example of a social game. But there are some games which are called as online money games. For example, online poker, right? Wherein people place bets, people give their actual money in return that again while playing the game of poker we can get some money, and that has been the area where again people have been losing a lot of money. That comes to the form of addiction as well, right? Again, though of course people are using their skill, their talent, right? And the idea is chance, and that chance makes this whole game very unpredictable and people have been losing a lot of money on that. And that has been the area where again this bill has been coming into picture, that it has banned completely the online money games. Any game where again people are putting up their money with an idea that again by playing game I can get some profit out of it, all those games have been banned. And in all such platforms, any kind of financial transactions has also been banned. You cannot put, let's say for you are using Paytm or any of the money applications to deposit money to that particular platform, that has been banned, right? That has been things what has been discussed in this particular bill. Then they have been telling that again these 2 sports, that is e-sport and online social game, they are good. And again, of course, they have a lot of potential in terms of growth in the economy. This is something which government is going to promote, right? They have been telling that as well. And they are telling that again, as this sector also requires a lot of regulation, right? So there has been a discussion or a provision which is talking about that again we need to create an online gaming authority which is going to regulate, strategize and oversee this particular sector's growth. As simple as that. So this is something which this bill has been talking about. Then in general, what are the constitutional basis? Number one, as I discussed, it is going to be a finance bill. Why are we calling it a finance bill? Because this bill has asked for a creation of what? A new authority, or online gaming authority, which requires money for its setup. It is also talking about that again, in any of these money gaming apps or platforms, there would be no financial transactions. Again, it is again talking about the money matter. That makes this particular bill coming under the domain of finance bill, which can only be introduced in Lok Sabha, very important, with prior recommendation of the President of India. Right? That has been discussed in Article 117 Clause 1. 117 Clause 3 talks about, because it is also because some money is going to be taken up for setting up of that online gaming regulatory authority. Money should be coming from Consolidated Fund of India. Again, it is coming under the domain of finance bill. So that has been the idea. How this bill is particularly significant going forward, that of course it is going to be making that whole gaming sector to innovate, again come towards the idea of economic development. It is also going to strengthen India's position in the global gaming and esports market. And lastly, it is going to make sure that again we are responsible and the entire gaming system or the online gaming system is regulated by the government. That has been the prime idea, what has been discussed in this particular bill. So we are going to make sure that again this could be a probable question. Again, this is a very new venture or new sector, but again the part of Indian economy wherein how online gamings can contribute to economic growth or economic development. That could be a probable question in the examination. So this is somewhere you are going to get an idea with respect to how everything is getting regulated and why few things are banned, what is the rationale behind it, and why some esports and social games are being promoted. Right? That has been the idea in this particular topic. The next news, Parliamentary Committee has bagged reservation in private educational institutions. Again, a part of your GS paper number 2, under the idea of constitution, social justice. Social justice basically means the idea of vulnerable sections. Reservation, of course, given to reservation the vulnerable sections of society. So what has been seen that with respect to educational institutions in India, government institutions, in of course government colleges, they give reservation. Right? They give reservations for these, let's say, marginalized sections of society. But when it comes to private colleges, there has been no reservation, right? And in fact, the data shows that in these big private institutions, there has been less number of students who are from these marginalized sections of society. So this particular thing has been given by the Departmental Related Standing Committee on Education, Women and Children and Youth, in its 370th report, and they have emphasized the idea of including reservation in private education institutions as well, or colleges. It is again making sure or asserting the idea that it is constitutionally it is possible. Do we have any provision in constitution which can be ensure that again this particular thing can be made to happen? Yes, we have it, right? So they tell ki, let's look at why it is very important. As far as the current status in this private higher education institutions is there, we talk about BITS Pilani. Very premier institute, but again a private institute. Look at the number of OBCs, SCs and ST students over there. If we talk about why it is again making, let's say, these marginalized people less enrollment in this private education institutions, due to higher amount of fees. Right? So these are the few reasons what exactly this reservation and why exactly it is needed. Let's look at. Number one, in the higher education institution domain, these private colleges are dominating, constituting 65.3% of colleges. Right? Of course, the idea of unaided means it is not getting any kind of financial support from the government. Right? When it comes to public or what we call as private universities, 5,517 private universities are there in the country. Then if we talk about public sector limitation, because of course we have government colleges, but again, they have limited seats. And again, government also has a limited capacity. But the new education policy 2020 has been talking about that again, we need to have a 50% of gross enrollment ratio, right? And that cannot be achieved with the current capacity of these government colleges. Therein, the idea of reservation of seats in these private colleges has been discussed. Then, of course, it is going to ensure that all sections of society is getting equitable access to these educational institutions. Then, what does Constitution talks about this? We talk about Article 15. No person shall be discriminated only on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. But there are few exceptions. Article 15, subclause 5. Tell me in comment which constitutional amendment added this Article 15, clause 5. 15 clause 5 tells that again, state has a power to provide reservation in all kind of educational institutions, including private education institutions. Exception is the minority educational institutions. So Constitution, there has a provision that again, state or the government can make a law which is making it mandatory for private educational institutions to provide a reservation. And there has been one Supreme Court judgment as well in the Pramati Educational and Cultural Trust versus Union of India case. The Supreme Court has upheld the validity of Article 15, subclause 5. Right. So this is the constitutional basis of the reservation which has been discussed. Right. So again, these kind of Supreme Court judgments are very important. Either they can come up in a form of question in prelims examination. They can tell you, they can give you name of few Supreme Court judgments and what exactly they have achieved. Right. They can ask you few constitutional amendments and they can ask you what changes they have made in the Constitution. That's why I asked you that again, Article 15, clause 5 has been added through which constitutional amendment act? Tell me in comments. Then, in terms of why and how exactly the parliamentary committee has suggested that again, if we are discussing that again, reservation has to be given, what were the recommendations which has been given by the parliamentary committee? They have told, number one, the parliament is supposed to make a law. If there is a law, then only it can be made mandatory that every private college in India is supposed to give reservation, and that has a constitutional backing by Article 15, subclause 5. That has been the first recommendation. Number two, they have told that once we were incorporating or implementing Right to Education Act, right, we supported the private schools. 25% quota is there in private schools. Right, so government supported by giving some amount of fund. So that has been the idea which has been given by this committee that again, if you are mandating these private education institutions to provide reservation, you give some backing in terms of funds. That has been the idea. Then, of course, identification of creamy layer. Some persons, by getting the benefits of reservation, have uplifted their position in society, and that of course, for the idea of OBCs, we have a creamy layer concept, right? So again, that identification has to be done on a regular basis so that again, actual people who need reservation should get or should be entitled to take that benefit. And again, lastly, there has to be awareness generation and outreach, wherein we can incorporate or collaborate with NGOs, community leaders to make sure that again people from these marginalized communities have an access to such kind of benefits which government is providing to them. Very important topic from the idea of reservation. You can discuss this in any question which talks about reservation, how we are going to talk about the idea of social equality, equality in education, right, or inclusive education. All of these topics, you can use such content in your answers. The next topic, India has successfully test-fired Agni 5, which is an intermediate range ballistic missile. Again, very important topic for you, GS paper number 3, science and tech, and the topic of defense sector of the Indian economy, right? So basically, the launch authority here was Strategic Forces Command. Sometimes the launch authority or some kind of body comes up in news. So again, we are very going to briefly read what exactly is the mandate of that particular body. So this Strategic Forces Command has a mandate, and it is a part of India's Nuclear Command Authority, and basically it manages and administers the tactical and strategic nuclear weapons stockpile. That has a basic idea. They can ask you some question, like say, why, let's say, few points regarding the Strategic Forces Command, and they can give you few statements, and again they can ask you to choose which of the options are correct, right? So that has been the idea. So basically, if you talk about this is something, because Agni 5 is a ballistic missile, so I wanted to show you what exactly is the difference between a ballistic missile and a cruise missile, right? So cruise missile are basically launched by jet engines, which is how they are navigating their path and again reaching their destination. Ballistic missiles are rocket fueled. For the initial thrust, rocket propulsion is being used, and after some time, of course, once they have basically achieved in a particular ballistic path, rocket fuel is cut off, and again now they take up their natural course, and that is this course is basically called as a ballistic course. That is basically the origin of this name, what we call as ballistic missiles. As simple as that. Then, what exactly are few facts? Because Agni 5 defense sector in Miriam's examination, there have been a lot of questions around the topics of defense. I have picked up one question for you as well. So again, you need to know basic facts about this particular missile, right? So Agni 5, again, it has a nuclear capable, and again, it is a surface to surface ballistic missile. Surface to surface. We have surface to air, surface to water. So again, it is a surface to surface missile. Number two, it has a range of 5,000 kilometers. We are going to see there are different kind of ranges. So it is basically coming under intermediate range. Number three, it is propelled by three-stage solid fuel engine. Basic fact. Then it is developed by DRDO under the Integrated Guided Missile Developmental Program of India. And under this program, there have been different other missiles which have been launched in the name of Prithvi, Trishul, Nag and Akash. Again, very important areas. Then why it is significant? Because in the defense sector, we are going to be strong as well. So with this Agni 5 launch, we are again coming under few of the leading countries, example US, Russia, China and France, who has this kind of a missile. And it is one very important thing, it is also a multiple independently targeted returnary vehicle, right? What exactly is this? Supposedly, this is a missile, it has been launched from here, it is taking a ballistic path and it is reaching to its destination, right? So this source, this is destination, and this is the ballistic path. What exactly is this multiple independently targetable returnary vehicle? So once it is reaching a path over here by a rocket, it is capable from that point of time, it can maybe throw missiles at different targets, right? That has been the idea of what we call as multiple. So again, from here, it can throw missiles to different targets, one here, one here, one here, right? So with one launch of missile, it can maybe detonate or target different areas. That is what we call as multiply independently targetable returnary vehicle. That has been the idea, and that is one major thing with respect to Agni 5 missile. That is something which we have achieved also. Then few other facts. It is of course a surface to surface powered by rocket initially, then flow through an unpowered ballistic trajectory, what we have discussed. It can carry both nuclear as well as conventional warhead. Basic fact. Ranges, as this missile is in what range? It is coming under the intermediate range, that is 3,000 to 5,000 kilometers. So again, the missiles are short range, which we call as tactical missiles, medium range 1,000 to 3,000, and long range, that is greater than 5,500, which is basically called as intercontinental ballistic missile, which can travel large distances between the continents. So basic fact. Let's see, any question has been asked? Yes, in the year 2014, there was a question in prelims examination. Agni 4 missile was launched, and there was a question on that. So this is how questions could be framed from these kind of topics. Basic facts they can ask you, and again you're going to choose some answers or options, right? So again, please tell me in comment what would be the nature or what would the answer to this particular question with respect to Agni 4 missile. Then we have India and Eurasian Economic Union has signed terms of reference for trade deal. So very important development. Yesterday we discussed about how the Chinese foreign minister visit is going to be major development in the domain of the tariff wars or the tariff imposition which has been done by the US government on us. So that is where India has been looking forward for different kind of an agreement, so that again we are going to be having a safety net with respect to trade domain. Again, very important for your GS paper number 2 and 3, international organizations, international institutions under the topic of economy, right? So what exactly is this India Eurasian Economic Union? So again, we are planning for signing a free trade agreement with this particular union. We have not signed the agreement, we have signed the terms of understanding on which terms we are going to finalize the free trade agreement between India and this particular union. So that has been the idea of signing of terms of reference, right? So this is something which has been discussed now, and it is going to help India in terms of long-term framework for trade cooperation. So whenever these kind of unions comes into picture, you are very important to know what all countries comes under that particular union, in that particular union. So in this, the member countries of this particular union is Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, right? So very important topics for your prelims examination, and very important strategically also. Russia is a major country where again we import a lot of oil. So if we have a free trade agreement, you tell how exactly it is going to help in terms of getting the oil at a very lesser rate with this free trade agreement getting into reality. So that has been the idea. And that is why India has been exploring a lot in terms of how it is not going to be dependent on few countries. It is going to be having very strategically looking across trade relations with different countries on the basis of need. So what would be the potential benefit out of it? Number one, trade expansion, because this area India has not explored that much, which have a lot of resources in terms of energy. That is again going to help India. Then, and again, in terms of trade relations with respect to that particular union, India has achieved $69 billion in the last 2024, which is 7% above the 2023 market. It is going to help, again, with this tariff war going on, we are going to explore different areas where again we can trade with, right? Then in terms of competitiveness, it is going to help the MSME sectors of India to, again, with this free trade agreement, there could be import of raw materials, what they require. They can export the manufactured products which these sector make. Again, very important for them as well. Then in terms of energy partnership, as I discussed, again, these region has a lot of energy resources. In Russia specifically, Russia supplies us 35 to 40% of India oil imports. So with this free trade agreement, it is going to be a very win-win situation for India. So again, strategically, what kind of benefits it have? Because it is going to strengthen the ties with Russia, what do we have? Because still we have not explored the other 4-5 countries, which are there. So this is going to be strategically helping in terms of building or the Russia-led bloc in terms of trade. Then, of course, it is going to reinforce India's multi-alignment foreign policy. That again, we are not aligned to any one country. That is something which India has been putting forward with respect to these kind of free trade deals. With respect to, we have been dealing with China, with UK, with European Union, and again now with this Eurasian Union. That has been the ideas of India's multi-alignment foreign policy. Then, what exactly basic facts about this union, that is Eurasian Economic Union? Again, it is an international body for regional economic integration across those 5 countries and again it was established in the year 2014, consisting of Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Armenia, and Kyrgyzstan. And of course, the objective is to ensure free movement of goods, services, capital, and labor between these countries. Okay. The next topic, Parliamentary Standing Committee has released a report on review of safety in civil aviation sector of India. Again, important for GS paper number 3, and and the topic of infrastructure, airways or aviation sector is also important sector, with a growing amount of what we call as rail, or let's say aviation sectors, accidents happening, that calls for safety regulation of that particular sector. And again, parliamentary committee has again studied the whole safety issue regarding that aviation sector. What are the causes, what are the challenges, and what would be the solution? So again, as I discussed previously also, many times reports comes in the form of problem and solution, right? So this problem solution is going to be your answer writing format as well, because in question of UPSC they ask you problem and they ask you for solution. So if you're giving solution what government is also telling, and again you're writing a government examination, this is going to be a very creating a very good impression in the mind of examiner, and again you're going to get more marks. So again, this particular report has been highlighting that again aviation sector or air traffic within India has been growing rapidly. This sector, of course, has been growing very rapidly, right? And that calls for a good safety measure, which this committee has discussed. And again, the DGCA is, of course, the aviation regulator in India, and the committee has reviewed the current gaps and the suggested reforms. So, number one, enhancing regulatory autonomy and capacity. So, number one point is key the staff shortage in this DGCA. It is currently running 50% shortage in terms of staff shortage, and one of the reasons is because of the recruitment process. Again, UPSC is also involved in that particular process. So they have told that again we are going to ease out the recruitment process, so that again you can recruit the shortage of staff what you have, and again it is going to grant DGCA full administrative and financial autonomy in terms of recruitment mechanism. Number one. Number two, mitigating air traffic controller fatigue and staffing details. As these we have staff shortage, right? So the air traffic controllers who see basically in terms of which airplane is coming at from which direction. So again, they are understaffed, and again they are required to work in more number of hours, and that is making them lose concentration, right? And that has been the idea with respect to this particular bill. They have told there has been a persistent shortage and high workload. So they have told that again we are going to immediately develop a fatigue risk management system. If people are getting let's say fatigue during work hours, what could be the scientific way to address that particular issue, and also improving the capacity and expanding the training capacity, so that again more number of air traffic controllers could be there. Then we have strengthening and surveillance and enforcement mechanisms. So again, there have been a large backlogs of unresolved safety, because many times we have seen safety mechanisms has been there. Sometimes some report or some incident has highlighted that safety issue, but again they are not being addressed. So once a safety issue has been highlighted or seen, that has to be addressed, that report or has recommended. They have told that time-bound mechanism has to be done, so that again any deficiency in the safety mechanism needs to be seen and needs to be addressed and closed. That are the few recommendations. Then they have also told in terms of addressing recurring operational risks. So many times you have seen sometimes some of the safety or mechanisms have been recurring on a time basis. They happen, but there are no actions being taken. So once, let's say if we talk about, let's say in aircraft you sit and the air conditioner is not working, or something is happening, and that has been a recurrent thing, that needs to be stopped. So if any issue has been identified, that needs to be addressed, and that need not to be repeated, that this committee has recommended. Then they are talking about developing domestic maintenance and repair and overall, that is MRO capabilities, wherein the maintenance of Indian aircrafts are outsourced. So again, we need to develop that. Again, there are challenges to domestic MRO companies, including high taxation, import parts, and infrastructure limitations. So the report has told that again you are going to develop the India's capability with respect to domestic MRO sector by rationalizing the tax structure, providing them with fiscal and infrastructure incentives, establishment of national aviation skill development initiative. That is the idea. With respect to development, the maintenance of all those aircrafts could be done from Indian companies altogether. And lastly, they have also told establishment of a just culture and whistleblower protection. So many times people fear to report some of these safety incidences because they fear that once they are reporting it, there could be repercussions which they could face. So again, for that point of view, there has been one idea that again has been floated that again we need to create a environment where again people feel free to communicate any kind of safety concerns once they see them, and there has to be some kind of protection which has to be given to them so that they do not face any repercussions by reporting such safety issues. So that has been the idea which has been discussed with respect to few of the recommendations which has been given by this parliamentary committee. Right, very important. Any question with respect to safety of aviation sector, you can use it as your points in your answers. Then, the place in news, that is Vietnam. So again, why it was in news? Because a 6th high-level meeting has been held between India and Vietnam with respect to maritime cooperation that has made this place back in news, right? So again, this is yellow color is Vietnam. It is located. The neighboring countries or bordering countries are Cambodia, Laos, and China. It has been again bounded by South China Sea over here, right? And we have a Gulf of Thailand over here, right? So that again, please locate it strategically. Very important Southeast Asian country with respect to India. Various geographical features, important rivers, Mekong, Red, mountains, any UNESCO site. Again, we have a largest cave passage of the world over here. So such important points from a place in news is very important for you to be reading, right? And make sure that again you make a strategic notes out of it, because every day, almost every day, we are giving you one place in news, right? So with this, approximately till next year, you're going to have a 365 places. And again, you have read them, you have seen them, you have read some points about them. That is going to make your task easier before examination. That again, you're not struggling with respect to looking up the map and again seeing what was in news. You're doing it on a daily basis. So please make it a practice that once we discuss it over here, you're going to locate them in map and write some basic points in your notes, which could be which is of course going to make your task easier in terms of the revision. Okay. Then we are going to discuss the quick updates for today. The first quick update is, so recently Uttarakhand Minority Educational Bill has been passed. So what they have done, they have abolished the Madrasa Board and they have constituted what we call as Uttarakhand Minority Education Authority. Just the name has been changed. The mandate almost remains the same because that has been constitutionally guaranteed to us under fundamental rights. What are those fundamental rights? Let's see one by one. We have Article 29. So again, all the things what I have written over here is an explanation. It is not the text of the articles, right? So basically, Article 21 talks about any group of people who have a distinct language, script, and culture of their own. They have a fundamental right to protect and preserve them and continue it. Number 2, Article 29 subclause 2, that again, no student can be denied admission to these education institutions which are government backed, which are aided by the government, right? Just because of on the basis of religion, caste, race, or language. Right? So any of this, supposedly if there's a madrasa and again any different religion people is going to be getting admission over there, they cannot be denied. Only a condition that again that has to be funded or aided by the government, or that should be a government school. Okay. Then we have Article 30 clause 1, which talks about minorities. India, the constitution has recognized two types of minorities: religious and linguistic. So minorities can establish and run schools and colleges of their choice. Number 2, Article 30 clause 2 talks about if government gives money or aid to schools, it cannot refuse just because the school is run by a minority group. let's say there is a government school and that government school is a minority school. Government cannot deny that that is a minority institution, so I'm not going to give them aid. That has been discussed in Article 30, subclause 2. So that is where some protection with respect to cultural and educational rights which has been given to minorities. As these comes up in news, that makes these fundamental rights important for your examination. Okay, then the next topic, what do we have? Lipu Lake Pass dispute. Yesterday we discussed about how the Chinese foreign minister visit has uh, eased out the trade relations with China, right? So we have few of the passes, and again those passes were discussed. We are going to start trade across all those passes which were halted. So now Nepal has told that again the Lipu Lake Pass we have that is coming under our territory. And why they have told? Because they have told in 2020 we have passed an amendment. We have given a new map of Nepal under which Lipu Lake is coming under our territory. India has told in 2025 that again it has objected India's or it has rejected in Nepal's objection to the Indo-China border trade via this Lipu Lake Pass. That is very important. So again, as I discussed yesterday also, all those passes please locate in your map. So Lipu Lake Pass is there in Uttarakhand, right? It is a Himalayan pass. Again, it is coming under the trade and pilgrimage route along the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. It is having a strategic link between India and Tibet, that is China, and it is a part of Bharat Ranbhumi Darshan, that is the idea of battlefield tourism. So few important facts about this particular pass. Then we have coal gasification and India's challenge with respect to it. Coal can be gasified, and with coal gasification process, what is getting produced? What we call as syngas, that is synthetic gas. So through coal gasification process, synthetic gas or syngas is getting produced, which has use in many sectors, just like electricity generation, fuel cell technology, methanol, ammonium nitrate production, synthetic natural gas production, fertilizers and chemical production. So again, it has a multiple uses. Niti Aayog has recently told the quality of coal in India is not good enough for the coal gasification process. That has been the idea what Niti Aayog has told, that again Indian coal has a high ash content of 30 to 45%, and again it is very much rich in alumina and silica, so that makes this coal gasification process unsuitable for Indian coal. That has been the idea what Niti Aayog has discussed. Again, coal gasification, again an important topic for your prelims examination. Then we have global capability centers. So International Solar Alliance has told that again it is going to set up global capability centers in India. It is just like global Silicon Valley for solar sectors in India. Again, what exactly is the meaning of global capacity centers? That again it is going to be a strategic unit for global operations around the solar sector, where again we are going to have a talent pool, technology and innovation in that particular centers. It is going to be also having research and developmental centers. Example, Facebook has a global capacity center in India. Let's say Google has a global capacity center in India, where again research and development is going to happen, right? Goldman Sachs has a global capacity center in India. That is where International Solar Alliance has also told that again we are going to set up a global capability center in India. Why India is such a spot where again such global centers are getting created? Why? Because India has cost efficiency, cheap labor, then again skill, talented pool. We have a lot of people who are trained and graduated and again have education in the form of skills. They have been proficient in English speaking, and again India has a strong IT and innovations ecosystem, right? So upon is going to help India in terms of competitiveness in that particular solar sector, and again it is going to make India as a hub for solar innovation. That makes this topic important with respect to the India's solar mission. Then we have saltwater crocodile at Sundarbans. So the population of this saltwater crocodiles has been increased in this Sundarban biosphere reserves. So that makes two important things. You're going to read about the saltwater crocodile, number one. You're also going to read about Sundarban Biosphere Reserve. So all important facts is important. You are going to read, right? Why? Because out of all national parks, biosphere reserves, or maybe wildlife sanctuaries, some comes up in news, and that makes that important, let's say, ecological spots important for your examination. So again, you're going to read about biosphere reserves, again specifically Sundarban Biosphere Reserve, right? And tell me in comment whether it is coming under UNESCO list or not. So basic facts about this saltwater crocodile. It is, number one, the largest of all crocodiles which are being found, and again, it is the world's largest reptile. Number one fact. It has what kind of habitat it is habituated to. It can be found in mangrove swamps. That is why it is found in Sundarbans, delta regions, lagoons, river mouths, and again, it is distributed where? It is distributed in eastern India and in the western Pacific Oceans. In terms of basic status, IUCN status, least concern. In terms of Wildlife Protection Act, it has been coming under Schedule 1, and under CITES, it has been coming under Appendix 1. So basic facts around that particular fauna species you are going to read. Then Thatikad Bird Sanctuary, that is we call as Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary, again was in news. Again, very important. Some sanctuaries is coming in news. That makes that particular thing important for the examination. So again, few fauna species have been found in that particular bird sanctuary. That is 9 new species have been found. And again, the idea of in terms of biodiversity conservation, right? So location, it is located in Ernakulam district of Kerala. It is Kerala's first bird sanctuary, and it has a largest, richest ecological zones in the Western Ghat region. So basic features, they are found in marshy lands near Periyar and Iddamalaya rivers. Again, you're going to also see what important rivers are flowing through the Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary, right? What kind of plants are found over there? Teak, rosewood, mahogany, and orchids. And lastly, what kind of fauna in terms of leopards, sloth bear, porcupine, and diverse nature of birds. That is why it is called as Bird Sanctuary. Then we have solar tornado. All of you know tornadoes. Tornadoes usually have a huge speed of winds and clouds. So solar tornadoes is something different. That again, we do not have winds and clouds. What do we have? We have plasma iodized gases, which has huge amount of magnetic field, and they are around sun. That is why we call it as solar tornadoes. So recently, a giant solar tornado was captured, right? So basically, they have a height of 130,000 kilometers, just like 10 Earths. That is the amount of tornado height it has. The size of 10 amount of Earths stacking above each other, right? In terms of temperature and speed, very high temperature, very high speed, and again, it can be up to 11,000 active at once near sun poles. So again, once these tornadoes are getting developed with such huge intensity, there could be approximately 11,000 such tornadoes across the sun poles. Why it is important in terms of Earth? It is funneling heat into sun's atmosphere, number one, which is again important for Earth as an ecosystem, and also helping in terms of space programs of the Earth, wherein it is contributing to solar wind. Solar wind is impacting the Earth's satellites and communication network in the space domain. That makes this topic important. They can ask you in prelims examination, what are solar tornado, basic facts, basic uses. They can ask about solar winds. So you are going to read upon them as well. Then we have minimum public shareholding, that is MPS. So SEBI has recently told that again we are going to ease norms with respect to new companies getting listed. What exactly is this? Supposedly you have a company. So maybe you own a piece of cake. So that cake belongs to you. So what do you want? I would be keeping the largest amount of cake piece with us, and I'm not going to give any of the pieces to any of them. But once such company gets listed in the stock market, you're going to list or maybe dilute your shares. And in fact, what has been one such reason, once the shares was getting diluted, the promoters of the company who had been a part of origin of that particular company, who have made that company, were having major amount of shares. So that was something, and that was not good in terms of trade, in terms of transparency. So again, SEBI has mandated that again 25% of the shares, once a company gets listed in the stock market, should be with general public. That is as simple as that, and that has been made sure, so that again to make public participate in the whole purpose, preventing ownership concentration of, let's say, the company shareholders and company promoters only had majority of share. That was also not right. It is improving governance and transparency mechanism, at the very same time providing liquidity in the markets. So they are governed by a SEBI Regulation Act of 1956 and Securities Contracts Regulation Rules of 1957, very basic facts, right? So currently 25% shares must be held by public, that is non-promoters. So again, SEBI has told if new companies are getting listed and they are getting reluctant, that again such shares has to be given to public. So we are thinking to ease this particular procedure. So that is why this was in news. Again, economic terms, economic facts can be probable question in your prelims examination. So with this, we come to an end for today's discussion. So any or all the topics what we have discussed, maybe all important questions which could be framed for the topic will be popping up in your screen. Now it is your responsibility that again, once you have read the topic, once you have listened to the discussion, you're going to solve the questions, and that is how you're going to complete the entire cycle of preparation for current affairs. Lastly, Visualize has come up with a digital current affairs platform, which is going to be a one-stop solution for all current affairs issues. So please go and explore. It is certainly going to help you a lot in terms of your current affairs preparation for this examination. So thank you so very much. All the very best and have a good night.